In the shining kingdom of Avalora, nestled between crystal mountains and blooming lavender fields, the palace was bursting with excitement. Banners fluttered in the breeze, and the golden spires of the castle glowed in the morning sun. It was no ordinary day. It was the second birthday of Princess Elara, the cherished daughter of Queen Sofia and Prince Leo. Queen Sofia, graceful and wise, had once been an ordinary village girl before she was chosen by the amulet of Avalora to become royalty. Now, years later, she ruled alongside her kind and noble husband, Prince Leo. Together, they brought peace and prosperity to the kingdom. Their love was strong, and their daughter Elara was the jewel of their hearts. Little Elara, with curly auburn hair and sparkling hazel eyes, had inherited her mother's curiosity and her father's charm. At just 2 years old, she was already known throughout the land for her laughter and her boundless energy. The palace staff adored her, and the townspeople would often stop and smile as she toddled through the castle gardens chasing butterflies. Queen Sofia woke early that morning, the excitement of the day lighting her steps. Her chambers were filled with soft rays of light streaming through stained glass windows. She leaned over the crib where Elara slept peacefully, clutching her favorite plush rabbit. "Good morning, my shining star," Sofia whispered, placing a kiss on Elara's forehead. Prince Leo entered the room with a tray, 2 cups of warm tea, and a plate of sweet lavender cakes. "She's still asleep?" he asked, smiling. "Not for long," Sofia replied as Elara's eyes fluttered open and a wide grin spread across her tiny face. "Happy birthday, Elara." Elara clapped her hands, excited by the sound of her mother's voice and the attention. "Mama, Dada," she squealed. The day was to be grand, for all the royal family was gathering to celebrate the youngest princess. Queen Miranda and King Roland, Sofia's parents, were traveling from Enchanted to join the festivities. Sofia's siblings James and Amber were coming too, with gifts and games in hand. Even Aunt Tilly, the eccentric and adventurous storyteller of the family, was arriving with a troupe of performers to entertain Elara. The castle courtyard had been transformed into a fairy tale wonderland. Ribbons and shades of pink and gold danced in the breeze, and musicians tuned their lutes and harps under flowering archways. Tables were laden with cakes, fruit towers, and glittering jellies. A carousel of magical creatures spun slowly, awaiting its young riders. Sofia stood at the center of it all, directing the preparations with her usual grace. She wore a lavender gown embroidered with tiny pearls, her amulet glowing softly at her chest. Leo stood proudly beside her, holding Elara, who pointed excitedly at the decorations. "She's going to remember this forever," Leo said. Sofia laughed. "Maybe not remember, but we will, and we'll tell her every year." Just before noon, the guests began to arrive. The royal trumpet sounded as King Roland and Queen Miranda stepped out of a golden carriage, arms open to receive their granddaughter. Amber followed in a swirl of ruffles, bearing a basket of handmade hair clips for Elara, while James arrived with a brightly painted rocking unicorn. "My little niece," Amber cooed, gently stroking Elara's hair. "I've brought you something truly fabulous." "She's going to love this," James added, setting the unicorn down. Elara ran to it immediately, giggling with delight. Aunt Tilly made her entrance with a flourish, trailing behind a group of jugglers, stilt walkers, and a talking parrot named Percy. Elara squealed in amazement and ran straight into Tilly's arms. "Happy birthday, my darling girl," Tilly said. "I've brought stories, songs, and maybe even a little magic." The celebration began in full. The gardens rang with laughter and music. Children from the village were invited to join the games, bobbing for apples, painting enchanted butterflies, and chasing bubble dragons that shimmered with rainbow mist. Elara, riding on Leo's shoulders, clapped in excitement as a fairy juggler made tiny stars appear from her fingertips. Sofia watched, hand in hand with her mother. "She's growing so fast," she said softly. Queen Miranda smiled, placing a hand on Sofia's shoulder. "And she's lucky to grow in such love. You and Leo have given her the kind of childhood most dream of." At midday, the royal cake was brought out. It was a towering confection of spun sugar, layered with forest berries and whipped vanilla clouds. At the top was a tiny sugar sculpture of Elara in her favorite pink dress, holding her rabbit. "Let's sing," Leo declared, lifting Elara so she could blow out the 2 candles. Everyone joined in, their voices blending with the harp's soft strum and the chimes from the palace bells. As Elara blew out the candle shelped a little by a well-timed gust from Percy, the parrot glittering petals rained from above. Cheers erupted. The joy in the courtyard was overwhelming. As the sun dipped behind the hills, casting the kingdom in hues of amber and rose, the celebration became quieter, more tender. The little princess was finally growing sleepy, her head resting against Sofia's chest, her rabbit tucked under her arm. Prince Leo joined them, wrapping his arm around Sofia's shoulder. "She had the perfect day," he whispered. "She did," Sofia replied. "And so did we." Nearby, Aunt Tilly began a final bedtime story, her voice lilting as stars appeared in the sky. "Once upon a time," she began, "there was a little princess named Elara, who was so loved that even the stars stayed up late to wish her happy birthday." Sofia looked around at her family, her mother and father holding hands, Amber braiding a young villager's hair, James playing tag with the children, and Tilly casting gentle illusions into the sky. She smiled, knowing her daughter was surrounded by love, wonder, and magic. And as the moon rose high above Avalora, casting silver light on the castle towers, Queen Sofia whispered a quiet promise into Elara's ear. "No matter how big you grow, no matter where life takes you, you will always be our little star." And so, Princess Elara's 2nd birthday ended not with fanfare, but with love, peace, and the beginning of a beautiful new year in her young royal life.